Are you looking to naturally support and reduce your cortisol levels? Check out today's video. I'm going to have lots of tips on lifestyle, diet, and nutrient changes you can start making today to start feeling better and feeling less stressed. So today we're talking about lowering your cortisol levels. So many of us are stressed and our cortisol levels are high and we can't sleep and we can't work like we used to. We can't enjoy ourselves. So that's why this topic is so important. So please check out today's video. I'm Dr. Shelley Meyer. I'm a functional medicine doctor, registered dietitian, and family medicine doctor. And I help motivated women and men reclaim their vitality, reclaim their energy, and rediscover the magic of feeling well. I post videos every Friday on this channel. Thanks so much if you're coming back, and if you're new to us, welcome. I'm so glad you're here, and I'd love for you to join our community. So today we're talking about a very important topic, which is lowering your cortisol. But when we talk about lowering cortisol, we also talk about what we mean is we want to lower our stress levels, because cortisol is one of our major stress hormones. So when it's high, we know that there's been some type of stress. Now, stress coming from our environment. There can be a lot of other sources of stress, and we're going to talk about that. But just remember, people often come to me in my functional medicine practice wanting a supplement that can help get rid of all their cortisol problems or lower their stress or make them sleep better. But you cannot supplement your way out of a problem with cortisol. So that's why we're going to talk about more than just taking a vitamin or a supplement today. So, like I said, when we talk about lowering cortisol, then that means we need to reduce our stress levels. So let's dive into some ways we can do that. But first, let's look at what our sources of high cortisol can be. And like I said, those are usually stress sources. So it could be financial, it could be job related, it could be traumas, past traumas that we've had. I have some videos about past traumas and cortisol and blood sugar that are a video that I will link here. I have a lot of videos on cortisol, so check out the playlist on that. It could be relationship stress, also emotional in other ways, fear, anger, overwhelm, grief. Grief, is a trauma, like we've talked about the trauma being a major issue of stress, but that can really sit there and live within you and cause wreak a lot of havoc with your hormones. So we really want to process this and work on lifestyle interventions, nutrient diet interventions to help reduce past traumas and past stress that could be there from a long time ago. Also, there can be physical stresses. So when our cortisol is high, it's not just because of life stresses and emotional stresses and those kind of things. It could also be because of physical stresses, elevated blood sugar, out of control blood sugar, diabetes, pre-diabetes, cholesterol. Our body's in a state of an inflammatory state when we have high cholesterol. Could be toxins in our environment. It could be high blood pressure. There's a lot of disease states that put us into a chronic overdrive of our cortisol, and then therefore we have these inflammatory high cortisol level states that we need to then bring down in order to reduce our risk for further chronic diseases or for new diseases to come along. So let's talk about what happens when stress is high. We have that sympathetic overdrive, and that is one of the triggers for chronic disease. So we have that sympathetic overdrive that can lead to elevated blood sugars. So it can be the chicken before the egg. So the traumas and physical stress can lead to high cortisol, or the high cortisol can then increase our risk for chronic disease later on in life. So we need to disrupt this stress pattern. We need to shake it up. We need to convince our body and our mind that we are not in this pattern anymore, to change that pattern. So one way we can do that, a few ways we can do that. It's not just one thing you do with lifestyle change, but we can do we can make different habits in our lifestyle to then therefore lower our cortisol levels. So let's talk first about exercise. Just doing exercise in general can help to balance your cortisol levels. Now, you may be thinking, if you've looked into this connection, that exercise raises cortisol. Yes, it does. But that's a short-term, really necessary effect of it. as far as when you look at the physiology of the human body. But later, it can lower our cortisol so that we can sleep better. And of course, you've heard the connection between exercise and stress levels. It lowers our stress levels. So it is an acute stress on our bodies, but it has to be there in order for our balance to be in place and for us to sleep better, which is essential for cortisol balance. So let's talk about what kinds of exercises that we need to do to balance our cortisol. So we don't want to do long, intense, long duration exercise like, I just did a half marathon. That actually seemed to raise my cortisol. My hormones kind of got out of balance. So I'm not saying runners out there, I'm not saying you have to stop running, but you may want to do intervals. Interval training is better for your cortisol. So we hear a lot about HIIT training, high intensity interval training, and that actually is beneficial for your cortisol. Although it spikes it right away, it helps balance it and lower it later. So like we're talking shorter intervals, like 15 to 45 seconds to even max of a minute of a really high intensity exercise. I would keep it more in the 15 to 45 second ratio, and then slowing it down for another 30 seconds and then kind of balancing it that way. And I'll put some links down below to kind of describe it better for high intensity interval training. But the interval training being shorter intervals, a shorter duration of the exercise, 20 minutes in total of the whole thing of the intervals that you're doing, is better than doing a longer duration, higher intensity exercise. That's much better for your cortisol, doing the shorter intervals and shorter duration. Also, yoga. That can be a very toning exercise and good for your muscles, but also great for your cortisol. So the breathing that's involved in yoga, the holding of the poses, the slow, steady kind of rhythmic movement of it, very good for your cortisol. Pilates is another great example. That's good for your cortisol. It's kind of similar to yoga as far as the rhythmic movement of it, the strengthening benefits of it, and the breathing that you do during Pilates. So then let's also talk about some ways we can incorporate more of that breathing and that mindfulness. So you're going to want to incorporate breathing and mindfulness when you're trying to lower your cortisol. So I recommend people do the 4-7-8 breathing. I will have a PDF, so sign up for our PDF list because we have tons of helpful PDFs there, and there'll be a link down there on 4-7-8 breathing, as well as a link on more of the benefits or more of the ways to balance your cortisol. So you breathe in for 4, you hold it for 7, and you exhale for 8 counts. I would like you to do that 3 times in a row, at least 3 times a day, especially when you're feeling stressed, when you have those high stress times of your day. Definitely incorporate the 4-7-8 breathing. Meditation, it would be great to do 5 to 10 minutes or more of meditation every day, every night, whatever time of the day works for you. That really lowers your cortisol. It's free, it's easy, you just got to make it into a habit. And then gratitude journaling, gratitude as far as some people do prayers, gratitude meditation, mantras, any type of gratitude. You're not going to be high stress when you might be when you're meditating, but you just kind of need to get in the habit of meditating, and that will lower your stress. But you're not going to be high stress when you're expressing gratitude. So gratitude will kind of kick that stress level out, at least for the short term. And then also working on your relationships, having more positive influences in your life, having positive people, getting rid of the negative people, having a pet. They bring a lot of positivity into your life. And then, just removing kind of the people that are negative and are bringing you down and that may make you feel drained afterwards. Laughing is another thing you should do to help lower your cortisol. See a funny movie, read a funny book, listen to a funny podcast. Listen to a comedian when you're on your way to work, when you're stressed there. Just put something funny into your brain and laugh. And then lastly, as far as lifestyle change goes, sleep. Definitely sleeping 6 to 8 hours a night, more like 7 to 9 might be better. And getting to bed by 10 or 10:30, waking up about 6 or 6:30. Those are cortisol balancing sleep hours. So let's talk a little bit about diet and nutrients. So one thing that can cause your kind of cortisol to be out of whack is if your blood sugar is out of whack. So it would be great to have a blood sugar balancing diet, which would mean lower in carbohydrates, higher in fiber. We're looking for 35 35 grams of fiber a day. That's hard to do, so I recommend you track that. I like apps like Carb Manager or MyFitnessPal where you can track your fiber, but shoot for 35 grams of fiber and lowering any kind of processed carb that's low in fiber and high in carbohydrates. Incorporating foods that are high in vitamin C can also lower your cortisol. So I have some other links on vitamin C rich foods in my PDFs that I offer. I also talked about it in my video last week. So bright orange, like fruits and vegetables, berries, anything that's rich in antioxidants, red, purples, berries and fruits and vegetables, and green leafy vegetables can all be very supportive of your cortisol. You can also take supplementary vitamin C in supplement form, and the PDF link that I have on cortisol balancing this week will give you lots of ideas and recommendations on supplement doses for balancing your cortisol. So speaking of supplements, you can take a vitamin B blend with B1, B2, B6, and folate and B12, and that's a good blend to help balance your cortisol. There's also adaptogenic herbs. There are herbs like rhodiola, holy basil, ashwagandha. I have a whole video on that if you check out my playlist and my suggested video that talks about the dosing and the benefits of those herbs. But those herbs are very toning for the cortisol, calming. L-theanine is another thing you can take as a supplement to help balance your cortisol. And then last but not least, intermittent fasting. We talk a lot about intermittent fasting on this channel, and there's a lot of information about this out there, but that is very beneficial for balancing your blood sugar and therefore helping your cortisol and the stress levels on your body. So thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to check out those PDFs that help you balance your cortisol, give you certain supplements and herbs and the doses of them. Always run that by your provider because I am not your healthcare provider, and you want to make sure those herbs and those vitamins are safe for you. And don't forget to join us next Friday. Don't forget to subscribe, share, like this video, and post it on your social media links. I have my social media links down below. I'd love to join me in other places. And don't forget to check out my channel for other information on functional medicine and reclaiming your health, your vitality, and rediscovering the magic of feeling well. I'm Dr. Shelley Meyer. I'll see you next Friday.